5 months after its establishment, the Rescue Nigeria project, RNP, is taking a step further to establish its presence in states across the country as it inaugurates a national structure at this gathering.
We have to stop.
The leadership of the non-partisan group is concerned about the current situation in the country.
The level of insecurity is undoubtedly the worst since Nigeria's independence. The trauma this has created, the drain on the country's resources this has occasioned, and the moral degeneration it has generated will continue to haunt us through the next generation. Corruption has risen to levels hitherto unheard of, diverted huge public resources to private pockets.
While acknowledging that the problems of Nigeria have been caused by years of maladministration, Dr. Bugaji berates the current administration for not being able to tackle the problems.
Admittedly, this crisis did not start with this administration, no. Only that this administration, despite the claim to address the problems, ended up making it worse than it was. It is both fair and accurate to say that we are where we are because of cumulative abuse the country has suffered in the hands of a brand of politicians that appear to be stripped of all conscience and decency.
There have been calls for a new breed of leadership in Nigeria, and members of the group believe such calls need to be taken seriously ahead of the 2023 general elections, just as they express concern over the way the Electoral Act Amendment Bill has been handled.
That is a key aspect of what the RMP must seek to actually address if any kind of difference were to be made in terms of identifying and electing credible leaders, leaders who have character, leaders who genuinely love our country, leaders who are not clannish.
The Electoral Act should not be provided at the behest of a political party. It should be for Nigerians. So it looks like we are waiting for political parties to put the acts in order before the act is signed, and that could spell danger for our democracy.
The need for more political awareness has become imperative in view of the impending 2023 general elections, as Nigerians look forward to electing new leaders for the country. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
Well, we're talking about the state of the polity right now. As you well know, 2022 is the year of politics, and barely had we started the year, then we started to hear declarations almost already, especially from the ruling party. We're not very certain where the PDP stands in all of this, but we will be asking our guest this morning just what sort of leader Nigeria needs as we are structured as a people. Is it possible for us to make progress? Are we held down by our political structure, or that's something, what really needs to shift for us to make progress? Joining me here in Abuja Studios is Mr. Dapo Akinyosun, who is a senior advocate of Nigeria. You're welcome to our studios this morning.
Morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm sure that you must have read the Nigerian Constitution so many times, and I'm sure that you know so many laws of the land in and out. From what you have seen so far, do you argue, and there are those who say, oh, we're not going to endorse anybody until the Constitution of this country changes. Do you think that the problem with why we're where we are, and there'll be many, many arguments as to what I mean by that, but why we're where we are is as a result of our Constitution?
No, I do not agree with the proponents of that. Every law is made by man for men. And if the operators of the Constitution do not do it in the manner that is properly executed, you will always have the problem with any law, any piece of legislation. The Constitution as it is can be worked. It is how it is worked So I think we can rework how we approach it.
Oh, so it's our own approach to how we've handled the Constitution that is the problem.
Correct.
Where precisely would you say that in what areas would you say, because if you ask all of the people who operate the Constitution, those who have sworn an oath to uphold the Constitution, they will tell you that they're doing their very best within what they can and how they can operate it, and they think that they're upholding it to the best of their ability. So where would you say precisely the problem lies?
The ability. When they say they're doing it to the best of their ability, what is their ability? What is the experience they've had in handling organizations, handling large institutions before getting into governance? You find that most people who get into governance have had not previous experience or prior experience in handling governance. So when they are thrust with handling large situations, you find a lot of them falter. Many people try to join politics and governance from the top. What is your experience at the grassroots? Who have you assisted? How have you worked your way up the system? And that is what I always challenge the young people to do these days. Look, why don't you start from somewhere? Well, you don't have to start from being the governor. Have you followed the process? Are you part of a party? What have you done in governance? Who's your mentor? Who are you following? But a lot of people just come out without any. You remember that this thing, there really is no training before you start the job. So many people just jump in and at the deep end. Is when they get there, they start finding out, oh, what do I even do? How do I go about this? And therein lies most of the challenge. And when you say the Constitution is not workable, what parts of it are not workable? What is the challenge that each person is having with it? That is what helps you identify and solve it. But when you just say it's unworkable, why? Because we say there should be a president, there should be governors. I mean, so what part of it is unworkable?
Big questions. I understand that we also have another guest who's joining us via Zoom from Asaba in Delta State. Honorable Benny Bakba is a member representing Ethiop Federal Constituency of Delta State. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you. Good morning, Ogbe. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year indeed to you as well. I'm sure you've heard the opening words of Mr. Dakmo Akionshu. I do not know if you agree with him, because you also have sworn to uphold this constitution, and you are currently in one of the chambers where laws are made for us at the federal level. From what you have seen so far, would you say that there are deficiencies in our constitution that has, well, I say, hindered you and your colleagues from being able to carry out maximally the functions of your office?
For me, I think I want to adopt all he has said. I don't see any impediment in the Constitution that is affecting our responsibility. What we have as a problem is our attitude towards the implementation of the Constitution. The executive and the way they tend to look at the legislature as if it's an appendage, the executive and their disregard for what we are churning out as a parliament, as a shrine in the Constitution. So I think what the problem we have as a country is the application of the Constitution, not the Constitution. Yes, Constitution is a law. It's meant for men, and if there are issues, they are bound to be amended. But so far, what we have, how well are we implementing it? So I don't think the Constitution is actually the problem. It's our attitude. We need to purge our attitude, purge ourselves of this mental, ignoble mental tendencies so that people can actually do what they are supposed to do at the right time.
Recently, I had the privilege of having an interview with the president, and we had the conversation around restructuring. A very small part of the conversation bordered around restructuring, and of course, he went back to what he said before. What do they mean by restructuring? If you ask, there'll be many definitions, meaning different things to different people. But there are those who believe, and they believe very rightly so too. They're very convinced in their beliefs, that there's a way we've been structured that has not helped us grow. The fact that, in terms of monies, for instance, how we've handled the financial aspect of our country, the fact that where resources are gotten from, is different from where they are eventually spent. The fact that states have to come to the federal government, at the end of every month to share resources. They believe that sort of arrangement does not encourage productivity, that it has encouraged the indolence, or I don't want to say of our leaders, but, has encouraged a general certain indolence, which we've seen, that has affected where we currently are. Do you agree with that? Do you see a problem there? Or again, do you blame it on our attitude to it?
You see, like you rightly said now, the issue still comes down to how the leaders are operating. The idea behind a welfareism, bringing some of the money from the different regions into the center, of its own is not bad. It is how it is spent that is the challenge. If it is spent on maintaining the infrastructure that the federal government should maintain, then you will find that there's enough to spend on military, policing, and those issues are areas where we need to put a lot of money. But what you find is that some states and many governors have gone comatose. Rather than looking at what each region can generate, what can my state generate, they are comfortable to just wait for the share of the center. But the idea behind it is that if each state is working hard to produce and develop its own economy, and as we've seen an example in Lagos State, it is not every state that is like Lagos, but each state has abundant resources, if well managed, can generate a lot of income. And rather than look to the center for the share, each person should be looking at what can we do. But with the way it is run now, it is difficult for the states to even pay their salaries. How then will they generate more money? But we have to look at how we operate the Constitution and those things so that people can be more effective.
Let me flip this to my colleagues in Lagos.
Well, thank you, Malkwe. It is interesting, Honorable, the way you began this conversation, around, the laws and everything that helps us to do what we do. But one of the questions Malkwe asked earlier, and the responses that were given by the learned Silk in the studio is, what kind of things should we be looking for in the leader who will take us to where we want to be? In terms of our leadership recruitment process, what would be for you the shortfalls, especially from the part of the electorate? Honorable, that's for you.
Okay. Well, first, the leader that Nigeria should expect going forward, because presently we have, because the head actually directs a lot of things. The leader we should be looking forward to is that leader that will understand that there's a time for politics and there's a time for governance. A leader that will be non-nepotistic, a leader that will have Nigeria as one and look at all of us as Nigerians, a leader that will respect our constitution and operate it the way it should be, a leader that should listen to the people. Because so far, what we have on hand is a disaster, because the leader that we have now is a military man, and I still believe that the military tendency should continue. 2 days ago, I had a discussion with a friend celebrating the lifting of ban on Twitter. And I said, nothing has been given to you. It's your right. If your rights was taken away and is given to you. So those are the things that we should look at for a leader that actually understands Nigeria on the security part, the social part, the political part, the economy, not just anybody just because you're popular or you've been there before and you have to come and serve in the country. So I think the leader we should look at, looking at the part of the electorate, our people should do away with money politics, believe in capacity, somebody that have the know-how that can actually take us from where we are now. So the leader we're looking for should not just be about a populist leader, but a leader who understands the dynamics of the country called Nigeria.
So, I mean, you keep saying the leader we're looking for clearly implies that we've not found that leader. And I'm talking from perhaps 1999 up till this point, or even some might take it all the way back. So looking back, I mean, government of PDP, as you've said, the current government of the APC, why have we not been able to find that leader? Is it really that hard to find?
Well, why we've not been able to find a leader is the fact that we are still playing communal politics. We are still looking at tribal politics. We are still looking at regional. You can imagine the debate now, the debate and the front burner, looking at 2023, people looking at, oh, the next president should come from the South-South. No, it should come from the North-Central. It should come from the Southeast. It should come from the Southwest. I think Nigeria should come off that because today we are here because we are talking about it should go to this zone. We should not be looking at zone. We should be looking at capacity. We should be looking at somebody that can take us to where we should be, where the Nigerian passport will be raised and people will respect you. Somebody that should take Nigeria to a place where our youth will not be thinking of running away to another country for greener pasture. Somebody who understands Nigeria where we can drive along our roads and will be proud to say, yes, this is my country. Somebody who can take us to a place where our military and our policemen will be accorded the right of rightful place to operate and work, and they will be adequately compensated. So we have a lot that is going on infrastructure. Nothing is happening. There's no way somebody can drive where I am now. I'm in Delta State, Sapele. I can't drive to Asaba without looking for how to get policemen around me. So I think we should forget about these regional politics and talk about individual with the capacity to deliver us from where we are, because we're in a ditch. Nigerians are in a ditch, and we need somebody who can raise us from that ditch and place us at par with other communities.
That leader you're speaking about, there's this group when they launched yesterday, Rescue Nigeria Project. They think that leader doesn't exist within the two political parties, the two leading political parties, APC and the PDP, and that's why they're coming up with this group that, look, Nigeria needs a new lease of life. Do you share the same thoughts? I don't expect you to, though.
Well, if I must tell you that, yes, I quite agree with a lot of their assertions. There's nothing wrong in advocacy. But seeing the faces there, these are people that have been in government in one time or the other, either elected or appointed. So are they saying that during their time, they had nothing, they didn't add anything to the table, they didn't bring anything up? Yes, it is good to say it. Yes, where we are is bad. We need people that can take us from there. But I don't think they should say it as if every advocacy group should come and turn themselves into a political party or want to just whip the present or the immediate past or the two political parties. Because all of them, I see former ministers there, I see former House of Reps members. So what are they saying? I saw a governor there, Governor Ahmed, former Kwara State, he is there. So what are they saying? They are telling Nigeria that they failed even during their time. So they are advocating today. Maybe their eyes are open. I was once blind, now I can see. But they are not really supposed to be putting themselves because from the body language, they seem to be thinking of getting, using the platform for political relevance and election. So I agree with them. We have these things, but they are not even the right set of people to cry because they are part of the problem.
Ms. Akionsho, let me ask you, I mean, as the Secretary of APC Professionals Forum, there's been this question about not leaving things for politicians entirely to do, because if you do, you cannot then complain if they keep getting it wrong because you allowed that to happen. But then there's this question as well as to, can professionals within political parties actually achieve much? Because if the politicians insist on saying, look, this is the way, they feel that, or some feel professionals amongst them may just easily get lost in the entire process, because there's that school of thought too that suggests, oh, politics is dirty, so if you get in there, you have to be ready to also soil yourself.
Definitely, politics, they say, is dirty. But how is it going to be cleaned up if clean people don't want to be dirtied? And the question you asked earlier about what the electorate should be doing is getting involved. Until more of us get involved in it, there you find that those who are trying to clean up the system are in a minority. And that is why professionals need to even get more involved in running the parties. I don't believe there should be anybody called a professional politician. Politics is not a profession. Why many people don't want to leave office is because they don't have anything they're going back to do when they leave office. If you're a lawyer, you're an accountant, you have something you're doing before you get into office. Then you can easily go back to your practice or your business that you were doing when you leave office. So the challenge we have is that of the professional politicians. People should be able to do, and when professionals come into the system, then they're able to advise. Initially, it may be slow to heed, it may be slow to yield, but the more of us that get involved in it, the better. But as long as we all look at it and say, it's dirty, I don't want to be a part of it, then you will find that the politicians will continue to do what is wrong. But gradually, it is gaining ground. I believe it is getting more acceptance, even among the political elites.
You know, and it's quite interesting because there's no law currently that bars anyone from aspiring to be a professional politician, even there'll be questions about how a person becomes a professional politician. Is there certification? So are you saying there should perhaps be some sort of minimum qualification for anybody to be a politician, perhaps to be a professional in a certain field, like a lawyer, an engineer, someone who's sort of established in that field before you can then aspire to be a politician and by extension, a leader?
Correct. And those are the kind of tweaks or amendments you would expect the legislature to make to the Constitution. So when we say the Constitution is not, there's nothing wrong with the Constitution. It is those little bits and pieces of it that we see as we go along that need to be improved on, that we need to get to work at. As long as we allow people, or we have people who have not decided or done anything in life, who just come into the office and their whole ambition, the whole aim of getting into office is to go and enrich themselves, that this is my chance to make money, then we will continue to get it wrong. But if you have achieved something in your profession, people know you that this is what you do for a living. And it may come to tweaks like we see in the European Parliament, that look, you cannot be a full-time legislator, part-time, live in your own accommodation, don't wait for government to do those things for you. And those things become a disincentive for you not to have your money before you go into that business. But as long as you look at, when I get into office, then I can be comfortable, then I think we're missing it.
Well, let me quickly ask Honorable Ibakwa. I wonder if this is something that the National Assembly will be willing to take up, to ensure that there's some sort of regulation. I mean, you talked about money politics playing a huge role in deciding who becomes leaders, but for the senior advocate, he thinks that professionals should be, or at least your professionalism should be a minimum certificate or entry requirement for being a politician. Would you be perhaps pursuing that in terms of amendment or putting up a bill?
Well, again, when you're talking about the professional, what kind of professional are we talking about? Are we talking about paper qualification, or you must belong to certain profession? That must be settled. That is one issue that must be decided, because the Constitution already, we know what it means. The qualification of somebody to be whatever position you want to be, the age. For me, to be a professional politician, it's laughable because it shows that you have no plan for your future. There are people who have been there and they don't just want to leave the scene. And most time they end up being disgraced. And the moment they are disgraced out of office, they die because they are heartbroken. They develop BP and they die. So for every politician, you have a backup. You have your private business that you were doing before you go into politics. And when you leave office, you should be able to go there. I remember as an individual, I served in the Delta State House of Assembly, and I served as a commissioner. And I went back to my private business for 4 years before coming to the National Assembly. So for everybody thinking that you have to be a politician all your life, I think that is that's an aberration, and it should not be encouraged. But say we have to make it a law, I don't think that would be infringing on the right. The Constitution also says that everybody have right, freedom of association. And if you're saying somebody must be this before you can be this, that I think will be trampling on somebody's right.
All right, Mr. Akionsho, when you say that we shouldn't leave everything to a certain group of politicians or political class because you need to get involved. But what would you say to perhaps professionals who come into politics and then they hear politicians say, well, you middle class, but you're not the one who voted for us, so we don't bother trying to satisfy you because we know the kinds of people who vote for us. And in some cases, they equally say, when it's time to campaign for the professionals who come into politics and they get into the field, do people keep demanding for certain things which they want you to drop right there and then? And if you don't, there goes your political ambition. So for professionals who are not able to, actually address that, they struggle to grapple with that, how do they then, move past that stage?
The more professionals that get involved, then you can reduce the influence of money politics. I have been involved, I've gone on campaign fields, and I've seen what you mentioned. It is more prevalent in some parts of the country than other parts of the country. But you will then find that how do I get into it is if more, look, the percentage of Nigerians that vote is abysmally low compared to the number of registered voters. And those that don't vote are more often the middle class and the professionals we're talking about. Who is a professional? Are they someone who's certified, who's doing some kind of business that, even if it's a hairdresser, there's a training process that you go through to become a hairdresser. So if everybody in their own associations and professions begin to engage the system and interrogate, you will see the power. I looked at the youth movement, the NSAS movement, and I said, if you could generate so much attention, can we not take that kind of attention into the political parties that exist now and then begin to amend the structures? But when we are only involved on mass protests for now and we don't plan to go forward, then there's a problem. And this is the time for more people to get involved in it and stop sitting on the fringes. But as long as the people who will do the right things don't get into it, then those who are willing to spend money and go and recoup it when they get into the office are the ones who will keep getting there.
Well, Honorable Igbakwa, are you going to tell us that you didn't spend money in your constituency before you won the elections?
Well, Chamberlain, elections are pretty expensive everywhere, not just Nigeria. Elections are expensive, and I wouldn't say that I did not spend money. I spent money because I did consultations, but went into primaries. You have to, even in the last American election, Democrats and Republicans, they were buying water. They were delivering food to people to vote. So, and that is, there's nothing wrong with it. That we did that too. And we went into litigation. We have to pay our lawyers. So those are sources of where your money go to. So you can't say that you did not spend money. But again, you must. I think I quite agree with the senior advocate that it's time we start looking at the capacity. It's time for professional people with something that they are doing. I don't want to agree it has to be a specific profession, but we should define the profession that we call the professionals in politics. Then, because everybody have right to association and everybody can come to it. It's a free entry and free exit market. So, but I agree that money will be spent, no matter how little, no matter how controlled it is.
That little money spent include giving people money to vote?
Vote buying is a crime. That should not be. In the course of consultation, it's just that in Nigeria, so many people don't seem to have political ideology because the political parties don't have some. They keep. That's why people can just switch. Even at the center of the river, they jump boat from one. You enter office with one political party and then jump into another. I think those are the things we should look at and really strengthen it. It's happening every day, even in the parliament. People come, they belong to one party, and because one thing is happening in the other party, they jump, and no punishment is done. Those are the kind of things we should look at to really put stringent measures, and the judiciary must be ready to interpret the violations. So apart from that, vote buying is a crime, and I don't think anybody should involve in it. That is why we're proposing, working seriously with INEC to have the electoral kind of tribunal to try electoral offenders, including vote buying.
Well, I'm wondering whether giving people pure water and all of those things isn't part of the process. But let me take this to Mr. Akionsho. Talking about the professionals coming into politics that you talked about earlier, I'm wondering how certain professional ethics can play in the kind of space that Honorable Ibakwa has described. Because there are those who have wondered, why can't we take some of the corporate ideas, corporate governance ideas into politics, into governance and all of those ones? But then, seeing the way Honorable Ibakwa has described, how do you reckon that can play? I'm just wondering.
Is it bringing corporate governance and ideas like that into public office is certainly going to be helpful. And that is why, if I said earlier that if you have been involved in running a business, if you have been running some kind of enterprise or profession before you get into politics, it is helpful. Also, being a professional, many professions, at least I can speak categorically for the legal profession, have rules regulating you. That if you misbehave, even if you are in office, and we've seen that a number of times, that professionals in office are sent to the disciplinary committee for not upholding the ethics of the profession while in office. And that is part of the process that will be helpful in putting people in check, because you know that if you're leaving office, you have to go back to this profession, and in going back to this profession, you may be disciplined or sanctioned for misbehaving. Then people will tend to behave better in office. But as long as you are not held to any standards by any organization or body you belong to, then when there's no sanction, when there's no punishment for bad behavior, people will always behave badly.
Well, just one more thing, Mr. Akionsho. I was just wondering, would you subscribe to the notion that the NBAs of this world, the Corens, the ICANs, should sponsor candidates into in politics to run for office so that they can tie the noose around their necks along the line that you have talked about? Disciplinary committees and all of that, if they don't perform to par when in office.
Yes, professional organizations can support their members who are going out. I mean, nothing stops a profession from recognizing that a good lawyer is going into the fray. We should all support him. But you cannot legislate on those kind of things or compel professions to support a person, because if the parties are built on ideologies, which is fast thinning out in Nigeria today, people just come out and say, vote for me because I'm good looking, or vote for me because I'm tall or I'm short, I make the best posters. They're not really talking about what is the ideology of the party again. I remember that growing up, we used to watch campaigns by Bafemi Awolowo. We knew what he was campaigning for. And I think APC coming out this time around, in 2014, in the 2015 elections, had certain things they said, we are coming to do. And people have continuously measured them by the things they said they were going to do. But a situation where you don't belong to any ideology or any ideals, and you're not speaking about anything in particular, and then you just come in there, I was voted, and you go back the same way. So I think it will be good for professionals to recognize or endorse members who are going that, okay, we know this is our member, is truly a member, then he can vote, he can be voted for. But we cannot say it should be in this party or that party or support him because it's that party. But we want to have some kind of recognition that this man, yes, is a part of the ICAN, is part of ANANS, and therefore we recommend. Of course, that will even make people more active in their professions.
Honorable Bakba, just one more thing. Help us understand this. So when you give people pure water, recharge cars, jollof rice during elections with intention for them to vote for you, that is vote buying, isn't it?
No, that's not the issue, Shabali. What I'm saying is there's that possibility of you can provide water, people provide water, you can provide it, and apart from that, especially for some of us who are already in office, they consider it a responsibility. That's one huge, I'll call it expectation of the people that you have to do it. There are so many unprintable requests that people expect of you. So if you're providing water, you're not giving money, you are not going to be there. Somebody has to do it. Both parties, everybody.
They are not Father Christmas. They are doing it with the intention to get re-elected. And when they do it during election period or campaign period, it's to get them to vote for you. Or are you doing it because you love them? No.
No, because you love them, because they are your constituents.
Honorable, we all know this things. You're doing it so you can get re-elected.
You have to. Those are some of the small things. That's how people spend. You must do them because the other party will do it if you don't do it. So everybody gets to do it, and you don't even know who's going to drink your water.
Yeah. So let's call it what it is. It's vote buying.
So on this ground, let me just say there's something I needed to say that the senior Leonard said about punishment. The sanctions actually, apart from the formal sanction by professional, there are sanctions. If you don't perform as an individual, the sanction is for the people to abandon you and not vote for you. So I think the best sanction is for the electorate to look at the performance of people they put in office. Somebody cannot represent you for 4 years and there's nothing to show for it. And another, in less than a year to go, they are jumping into the fray and say, oh, now the person starts spending, they start doing things that they've not been doing just because they want to get your vote. So the best sanction is not to vote for them so that they leave office, apart from the one that the professionals can do, which is very, very okay. But for people with outside that brackets that nobody is controlling, there's no organization, I think the best sanction is for the electorate to abandon them so that they know that they didn't do well.
Well, let's, as we wrap up now, I was just going to ask you some of what you think that the electorate should be looking out for in 2022 as we head into 2023. Because you know that we can be emotional. In one breath, you're supposed to be looking at the criteria of the candidates and what they're bringing aboard. Next thing you can hear that, oh, I voted for him or her because I liked his or her poster. The kinds of things, the reasons people give for voting sometimes, do not make sense. At least when you examine them, they sound more emotional than something based on reason. How does the electorate avoid getting into or being caught in an emotional trap rather than making a rational decision?
Sadly, there is a need for more voter education, and people have to take an interest in their own lives and the country as a whole. We tend to get emotional over religion, over tribe. That is from my area, let's vote for him. The legislature said, well, it's okay to give them water and food. If I'm going to a voting center, I'm not going to collect pure water from somebody. I'll probably go with water from my house. And we need more people like that to come out. The people who are influenced by this are the masses who have been impoverished by these same people giving them water and food at the voting centers. What we need to do is that more of us need to understand what is the role of the legislature. Who's my local government chairman? Who's the senator? What is he expected to do? Everything that goes bad in Nigeria, they just blame the president. Now, even the things that I was talking to somebody last week and he said, oh, the road in my state, this road is state road, this is federal road. I said, what's the difference? It's in your state. Why don't you fix it? But we're waiting for federal government to do that, and they blame federal government for state roads that are bad, hospitals that are not fixed. Education is not a problem of the federal government at state level. I mean, primary school, secondary school is regulated by the state. But many people from the foundations have gone wrong. And if the states are not held accountable, how do you hold them accountable if you don't even understand what you should ask them? So I think the electorate, first of all, need to understand the separation of each level of government, then begin to hold them accountable individually. Now, in selecting leaders, we need to look at what is the profile of the person you are voting for. As I said earlier, What experience is it bringing to governance? Is it coming to governance with some experience, having worked in some part of the executive or legislature before? Has he worked as a legislative aide? Does he understand what it means to be an advisor to an attorney general? Has he worked with an attorney? And you will find that those people who have worked in such capacities before getting into an office always tend to have an idea of what to do when they get there, because they've seen what you can do. And we have a few examples we can look at around the country who have worked as assistants and then took the office later on. You will see the performance. That is what I think we should be looking out for. People who have worked honestly, diligently, with people in governance at one level or the other, who have a lot of professional experience or clout to bring, and say, I want to serve as an accountant. I'm coming to serve the country with my accounting experience. You will find those people tend to perform better. A military man is a disciplined man. Having worked, you find that there's some disciplines, there's some things you've done that, if well regulated, will help us to get out of this quagmire. But we cannot keep complaining about, the politicians are bad, government is bad. What are you doing about it? And you find that these things you talk about, corruption, is in every one of us. It's at every level. So when you keep blaming other people for it, start with yourself. I live in an estate. You see how people misbehave. Even within a residential estate, you see all kinds of people with different ideas who will not just obey simple rules and regulations. Don't build your house beyond this point. Don't do this. And we're always looking for ways to cut corners. And we need to stop that as individuals first, re-educate ourselves and determine that this country surely is the best land. I don't have any other one.
Well, we could go on, but we have to call it a wrap because time is not our friend. We have to thank you so much for coming on the program this morning. Mr. Dakpo Akin-Osun is a senior advocate of Nigeria. Thank you for coming to our studios this morning here in Abuja. We also had with us Honorable Ben Ibakba. I don't know if you want to quickly put in a closing comment in 30 seconds. 30 seconds is all you have. Can you do that?
Well, I think I just want to tell Nigerians that they should not be deterred. We have a country that we must build together. 2023 is around the corner. Let's select the best leader.
Thank you so much for that. Honorable Ben Ibakba is a member representing Ethiop Federal Constituency in Delta State. Thank you for coming on Sunrise TV this morning. I see a few of your mails this morning. Olagunjo Oladele writing about Armed Forces Remembrance Day 2022. Festus Akimboyewa, Peter Idialo, Titus Badum. I think we're totally out of time. But perhaps, okay, I've been told that we could take one at least. Olagunjo Oladele has this. Politics and social media platforms have been active in the events to fuel negative impressions and divisive attitudes towards the Nigerian state. The idea of the Armed Forces Remembrance Day that is observed every January 15 is to honor our fallen heroes of the Nigerian Armed Forces whilst using these same platforms to foster patriotism and unity. We must impress on Nigerians that these sentiments are sacrosanct. One can be a critic of its leaders, but should not be of its flag, military personnel, anthem, or symbols, etc. Thank you so much for that mail, Olagunjo Oladele.
Okay, well, we then have this next one coming from Festus Akimboyewa, who focuses on a different matter entirely about the armed forces.
So it's the same,
the same matter, actually. He says, on this Remembrance Day, we appreciate our servicemen and women who daily go forth with courage and determination to face the forces of evil, hate, and violence in order for us to live in peace. We pray for their families who have to live with anxiety because of the daily challenges of their loved ones. May God bless our armed forces and give Nigeria a peaceful future.
Amen. Well, let's quickly take this one from Peter Diallo, saying our men and women in the armed forces are actually high-risk takers compared to their counterparts in the US and other advanced societies. Though their loved ones may not get a commendable compensation when they become fallen heroes, still they place their lives on the line each time to keep everybody safe. Again, God bless the Nigerian Armed Forces.
Titus has the same. We always pray for peace and unity of our country, Nigeria, and safety of our security forces. May God Almighty guide, bless, and protect them. And we say amen.
It's a fine place to leave it, gentlemen. And, well, thank you so much for your mails. Thank you so much for writing in. It means a whole lot to us. I'm Malkwe Ogun Yusuf.
I'm Kayode Okikele.
Amaya Makine, have a wonderful day.
I'm Chamberlain, sir. Enjoy your weekend.